Today I would like to show you the thought process of a strong player that leads to winning a match against a beginner. I'll demonstrate this with a recent game I played. Let's open with e4. My opponent plays c6. This is called the Caro-Kann, a very good opening for players who prefer a safe game instead of the tactical chaos often seen in the Sicilian defense. The Caro-Kann prepares to support a push on d5, with the c6 pawn. The problem for black is by playing d4, white gains much greater control of the center. Even if black places a pawn on d5, white will have two central pawns, fighting against only one of black's. Let's play e5 to further expand our center and space. The opponent plays e6, a poor move as it blocks black's light-squared bishop behind their pawns. In chess, the main objectives are to control the center and develop your pieces. Moving the knight to f3 or the bishop to d3 are both valid options as they move pieces from passive to active squares. We play knight to f3. Our opponent continues to move pawns instead of developing pieces. This not only delays the king's safety via castling, but also prevents them from creating any threats. We continue developing by placing the bishop on d3, preparing to castle, and get the king to a safer position. When I talk about developing pieces, I mean placing them on effective squares. The opponent plays bishop to d7. Although black developed a piece, it's placed on a square, where it is ineffective. It would have been better to place the knight on d7 to support a push on c5 and open the game, especially since black's position is quite closed in the center. We castle, securing our king behind three pawns and activating our rook, which can now be placed on more active columns. The opponent plays knight to a6 aiming to place it on b4 or c7, but we simply capture the knight with our bishop. Why? Notice how black's pawn structure is ruined, with doubled and isolated pawns that are easy targets for attacks. By capturing them we can promote more easily and win the game. We develop our queen to d3, activating it, with the intention of capturing the pawn and putting pressure on black. Black defends the pawn by moving the queen to c8. A very passive position where it only serves to protect a pawn. Our queen is active in the center, ready to attack and expand. We play c4 to break black's center and gain more space. Black captures the pawn on c4, and we recapture with our queen. Now our opponent develops the knight to e7, aiming to protect c6. Both sides continue developing their pieces until we reach the beginning of the middle game. Let's analyze the position. White has all the light pieces, and the queen well developed, a good pawn structure, and a safe king. Black has doubled pawns, a light-squared bishop blocked by their own pawns, and a king still in the center. Who do you think is better? Obviously white. But what should we do now? Simple. As I mentioned earlier, we should aim to develop our pieces. Now it's time to activate the rooks. We place the rook on c1 to target the weakness on c6. Black castles, and we play g5 prompting a bishop exchange. Why? It's simple. White's dark-squared bishop is significantly more restricted and hemmed in by the central pawns on d4 and e5. Black's bishop enjoys greater freedom. Opting for an exchange is the wisest decision. As black is a beginner, he agreed to the exchange, and we recapture with the knight. Black plays h6, creating an escape route for a potential backrank threat. And we retreat the knight to f3. Now black develops the rook to e8 protecting the pawn on e6. We play the knight to a4, with the objective of maneuvering it to c5, to further pressure the pawn on a6, and also attack the bishop on d7. Black plays rook to b8 to attack the pawn on b2. Before taking any action we must first protect the pawn. Therefore we play b3. Black plays knight to e7 to protect c6 and potentially move the knight to d5, aiming to establish a strong central presence. We play knight to c5, and black decides to push it to a5, to avoid losing the pawn. We place the queen on a4, aiming to capture the pawn, while maintaining pressure on c6. Black moves the queen to c7, attempting to protect everything. However, placing a knight on a6 will give white a huge advantage by gaining material and consequently destroying black's position. The best move for black would have been to place the queen on d8. Although it would still result in losing a pawn and being at a disadvantage, it would have been a more playable position for black. Black takes the knight with the rook. We continue to put pressure on a6. Even though the knight is well placed, we continue to capture material with the queen taking a5. Black makes another mistake by exchanging pieces, despite being at a disadvantage, making it easier for white to win the game. Okay, now let's develop the other rook on c1 with the idea of putting it on c4, and then a4 to attack the pawn on a7, and have a passed pawn. The opponent now tries to play aggressive, as he has nothing more to lose, and plays g5. We play rook c4. The opponent pushes to g4, we simply retreat the knight to d2. The opponent pushes again, we take the pawn on a7, and after the exchange of rooks we proceed to promote the passed pawn. The opponent is forced to sacrifice the bishop and surrenders, ending the game. I hope I have been as clear as possible in the explanations, and I invite you to comment on any doubts you have in mind, and if you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Take care.